Welcome back, adventurers. We take every comment you leave into consideration, and that leads us to today's video. You spoke, and we listened. We fumbled round 1 of our Archmage list, so we are back with round 2. And this time, we are covering all the heavy hitters. So grab your spellbooks, some popcorn, and buckle up. But before we get into that, if you love hearing the lowdown on the lore we bring you, do us a huge favor and smash that like and subscribe button. And consider snagging some merch or a membership to the channel where you'll get access insider-only polls, access to our Discord community, where you can help direct the content we bring, discounts on merch, and more. It really helps the channel out and keeps it, so we can keep bringing you content that lights you up like a fireball in a bedroom. Anyway, back to the video. Telemont Tanthul. Telemont hauled a city of shadows into the sun and expected the world to bow. Thultanthar drifted over a Nalrock like a moving eclipse, while its most high watched from high balconies, wearing Shar's favor like a second cloak. For a while it worked. Sky cities returned. Old fears learned new names, until the bill came due. After Thultanthar's return to Toril in 1372 DR, Telemont ruled through the 12 Princes of Shade, most notably Rivalin and Brennus, and a mythallar that powered a revived Enclave network. Aligned with Shar's Shadow Weave, he sent flying enclaves and shadow-warded armies to seize leverage, pressed Everesca, turned Sembia into a puppet via commerce and politics, and waged a running contest with Myth Draenor over mythal power and prestige. Through the 1480s DR, as the Second Sundering loomed, his push for permanence ended abruptly when the weave reset and mythallars failed. Thultanthar fell, and Telemont with it. Khelben, Blackstaff, Arunsun. Khelben does not win with brighter explosions. He wins by making tomorrow possible. Tall, black-haired, eyes like wet slate, he carries the ebon staff that holds the vows of every Blackstaff before him. Laeral Silverhand walks beside him as partner and counterweight. Together, they made Waterdeep feel like a city that could survive its own legends. Khelben used permanent wards, alarm glyphs, and linked sending relays to turn Blackstaff Tower into Waterdeep's early warning and response hub. The tower's defenses monitored portals, harbor approaches, and key thoroughfares, and when a boundary was breached, the alarm spells alerted the Watchful Order, the City Watch, and trusted Harper cells, so the right people moved first. He maintained standing teleport anchors and sealed circles so field teams could be inserted or extracted without marching spellcasting through crowded streets. In practice, his plans emphasized containment, de-escalation, and keeping collateral damage low during monster incursions, rogue conjurations, or masked lord intrigues. The much-debated Luskan-Ruatum incident refers to his covert arrangement that let Luskan strike Ruatum in exchange for leverage and the recovery of dangerous items, a choice many Harpers deemed contrary to their charter. After the censure, he departed and founded Tel Tokira, the Moonstars, a smaller network designed to handle sensitive missions the Harpers could not publicly sanction. Laeral Silverhand. Laeral moves through Waterdeep, like the promise that the city will still be standing tomorrow. There is warmth in her voice and iron in her spine, the presence of a woman who has outlived kingdoms and learned which levers to pull so ordinary people can go about their lives. When the air tastes of storm and the weave starts to cough, Laeral's hands shine with silver fire and the room calms down. Laeral is one of Maestra's 7 sisters and a chosen whose command of silver fire lets her mend damaged weave nodes rather than simply overpower foes. Early in her career, she led an adventuring company called the Nine, and in 1337 DR, she donned the Crown of Horns, a malignant relic that drove her into years of madness until she was freed and the crown sundered and secured. She later partnered with Khelben Arunsun as Lady Mage of Waterdeep, and, after a public split with the Harpers, helped found the Moonstars to tackle sensitive problems that required discretion. In the late 1480s, she succeeded Dagult Neverember as Open Lord, and by 1489 DR she was in office, coordinating the city and the Lord's Alliance through crises like the tyranny of dragons while keeping Waterdeep's wards stable. Her operating style favors coalition, de-escalation, and precise applications of power. Silver fire used like stitches, not shrapnel. Alassra the Simbul. The Simbul arrives like a thunderhead over the Yurewood, hair whipped by sea wind, eyes alight with the promise of ruin for anyone wearing Thayan red. Aglarond is more than a realm to her, it is a vow, and when border fires flare, she takes the field herself. Fans trade stories of her raids like campfire legends, a lone figure stepping from mist onto a red wizard bastion, a dozen spells speaking at once, and silence falling where arrogance stood. Inside the Tempest is a woman torn between fury and tenderness, lover to Elminster, servant of Mystra, and queen by choice rather than comfort. Alassra Silverhand is one of Mystra's 7 sisters, and a chosen whose command of silver fire and instinctive spellcasting made her one of Faerûn's most formidable archmages. As Witch Queen of Aglarond, she repeatedly countered Thayan invasions by striking supply lines, smashing enclave circles, and personally unraveling Zulkir-backed rituals before they matured. She favored shape-changing and improvised, overlapping spell sequences designed to overwhelm defenses rather than duel politely. She used silver fire to cauterize weave damage left by red wizard experiments, so collateral harm stayed low, for Aglarond at least. Her relationship with Elminster anchored her during quieter years and complicated her during darker ones, but their partnership produced coordinated strikes and shared intelligence against Szass Tam's designs. During the Spellplague era, her fate turned tragic. Later, accounts speak of her loss in the chaos that followed, with Aglarond's defenses and politics reshaped by the absence of their living deterrent. What remains consistent is her reputation as a one-woman answer to Thay's ambitions. Szass Tam. Szass Tam enters a room like a drop in temperature. His voice is careful, his gaze is accounting, and his nation is a diagram only he reads in full. Where other necromancers hunt trophies, he hunts leverage. Where other rulers claim borders, he claims processes. Thay under Tam feels engineered rather than governed, and that is exactly how he likes it. Tam is the long-standing Zulkir of necromancy and the architect of Thay's transformation into an undead state. In the late 14th century, DR, he turned a power struggle among the Zulkirs into civil war, defeated or exiled rivals, and centralized authority so completely that ministries and Tharkions answered to a lich who did not sleep. His hallmark projects are continent-scale engines. The Dread Rings are fortress ritual sites, laid out as a network to harvest death and feed a single purpose. In multiple eras, he drove that network toward a remaking of himself or the world, attempts thwarted by coalitions from Aglarond, Rashemen, the Harpers, and adventuring companies who broke rings and severed conduits. He exported Thayan power through enclaves that traded magic for influence, and through proxies like Valindra Shadowmantle, whose attempt to raise a dreadring in Neverwinter Wood kept the North awake at night. Inside Thay, he expanded laboratories and prisons into the Doom Vault, a gate-linked complex that processed life into obedient assets until heroes breached it and smashed the system. Through failures he persisted because lichdom gives him time to iterate. He hides his phylactery, replaces lieutenants without sentiment, and treats setbacks as data for the next design. Halaster Blackcloak. Halaster is what happens when a genius refuses to stop building. He came to Mount Waterdeep, heard the old dwarven delvings of Clan Malerkin breathing under the stone, and decided the mountain should have a mind. Undermountain is the result. It sprawls and mutters and changes moods. Adventurers talk about him the way sailors talk about storms, because he dies loudly, returns inconveniently, and leaves new corridors like apologies no one asked for. Halaster seized the Malerkin halls and spent centuries expanding them into Undermountain, a multi-level laboratory that doubles as a proving ground. He seeded portal networks that link levels to one another, to Skullport, to far corners of Faerûn, and even to the tiers of Saloon, via the outpost called Stardock. He founded Dwemercore, a school hidden in the deeps, where hand-picked students learned on a diet of danger and impossible homework. His apprentices became legends or warnings. Arcturia perfected fleshcrafting until ethics broke. Trobriand the metal mage filled caverns with golems that still patrol by habit. Muiral turned his own body into a nightmare, and then decided to share. Halaster layered wards to keep his experiments from spilling into Waterdeep, yet the system leaked by design because he wanted traffic. He needed adventurers as test cases and as cleanup crews. There's at least one death in the late 1370s, when a ritual backlash and portal cascade tore him apart, followed by a long absence during the Spellplague's confusion. By the 1490s, he is back in Undermountain, active and watchful, rebuilding his network and treating resurrection as maintenance rather than miracle. The Srinshee. She moves like a quiet horizon of light, more presence than spectacle, and Mythdraenor breathes easier when her shadow crosses its streets. The Srinshee speaks to the weave as if it were an old friend who needs gentle reminders, and it listens because she never asks for glory, only for the city to sing again. When coronals falter and towers dim, she steps from legend to steady the hand on the tiller, and then fades before the applause arrives. The Srinshee is an ancient sun elf, high mage of Cormanther, whose mastery of elven high magic places her at the very top of realm's lore wizardry. Across eras, she tutored princes and prospective coronals, safeguarded the ruler's blade of Cormanther, and guided rituals that anchored, and later repaired portions of, Mythdraenor's Mythals so the city's wards would hold. After the Fall and the Weeping War, she withdrew with the city's most dangerous heirlooms, reappearing in the age of the last Mythal to arbitrate succession, return the ruler's blade to a worthy hand, and help stabilize the restored realm. She is repeatedly offered crowns and repeatedly declines, choosing stewardship over rule. Unlike most high mages who require circles, she is recorded working solo workings at scales that would break lesser casters, preferring precision to spectacle and interventions that leave citizens alive rather than enemies impressed. Larloch. He is the chill in a closed library long after midnight. Where other archmages stamp their names on the skyline, Larloch erases his and lets the building stand anyway. Warlock's crypt broods on the Sword Coast like a sealed vault, its corridors lined with minds that chose eternity and then chose him, When histories notice Larloch, it is often in the negative space around other legends, the careful gap that means a hand was there and then withdrawn. Larloch is an ancient Netherese arcanist who embraced lichdom and consolidated a dominion of liches in Warlock's crypt, a hidden fastness whose residents are bound to his will and counsel. Across eras, he has pursued Netherese lore, mythal and mythallar knowledge, and rare artifacts with a patience unmatched, preferring proxies, geist servants, and quiet bargains with powers as formidable as the chosen to overt displays. He is known as a planner whose spellcraft emphasizes control and extraction. Witness the old realms-known formulae that bear his name, such as Larloch's Minor Drain. And as a survivor whose telepathic reach and layered contingencies let him monitor and manipulate far beyond his lair. He rarely duels equals in the open. Instead, he engineers outcomes in which equals spend themselves while he acquires the prize. When Netherese relics surface or crypt empires stir, Candlekeep debates tend to ask the same question. Is Larloch already involved? And if so, how many moves ago did he start? Ioulaum. Ioulaum looked at the horizon and decided it was a floor. In the dawn of Netheril, he treated gravity like a negotiable contract, building engines of captured weave light until cities took to the air, and the word enclave meant a palace that could cast a shadow on the clouds. He is the engineer's archmage, less thunder, more tools, and the realms that followed learned to dream bigger because his questions were never small. Ioulaum stands among the greatest Netherese arcanists and is credited in Realm's canon with pioneering mythallars, the magical power cores that enabled sustained flight and large-scale enchantment, and with raising Sinlanal, remembered as the first enclave. His workshops established the template other arcanists refined for centuries, a mythallar at the city's heart feeding wards, weather, industry, and levitation fields that kept stone aloft as easily as ships ride wind. When Karsus's folly shattered Netheril's Weave-era complacency and sent most enclaves crashing, Ioulaum's legacy persisted in recovered designs and in rumors that he survived by abandoning a mortal frame for an immortal, aberrant form deep beneath the northern ice, continuing research in seclusion. Across editions, formulae bearing his name circulate among scholars as relics of a mind that solved problems at infrastructure scale and then kept solving them long after empires fell. Karsus. Karsus loved an empire enough to gamble the cosmos on it. Picture a young genius with ink on his sleeves and the sky in his eyes, watching Netheril choke under Faerûn-drained magic. He decided the only answer was to grab the steering wheel of divinity. For a heartbeat, he did. Karsus was a Netherese archwizard who devised Karsus's Avatar, a 12th level spell intended to seize a goddess's portfolio, specifically Mistral's, so he could restore and command the weave to save his people. The casting worked long enough to prove a mortal could not bear the load. Mistral sacrificed herself, severing Karsus's connection and collapsing the weave in the process. Enclaves fell from the sky, mythallars died, and the empire ended in moments. In the aftermath, Mistral was reborn as Mystra, who rewrote the rules to forbid 10th level and higher spellcasting. In Anauroch, the petrified, colossal remnant, known as Karsus's Avatar, endures as a red stone warning label. Manshoon. Manshoon walks into a room like a contract, precise, cold, and already signed in triplicate. When one plan dies, another wakes up with the same memories and a better attitude. Villains come and go. Manshoon iterates. Manshoon founded the Zhentarim at Gentle Keep and built it into a continent-spanning engine for control through trade, intimidation, and wizard-backed force. Anticipating assassination, he created a stable of pre-grown clones keyed to awaken on his death. When that trigger finally fired, multiple clones rose at once and launched the Manshoon Wars, each claiming to be the original and moving to seize the network. Across the centuries, he clashed repeatedly with Elminster and the Harpers, lost bodies, lost bases, and yet endured, at times as a mortal archmage, later famously as a vampire operating from Waterdeep, while other Manshoons pursued their own empires. His power lies as much in administrative ruthlessness as in spellcraft, reorganizing cells, replacing lieutenants, and treating defeat as a scheduling hiccup. Gromph Baenre. Gromph learned to smile without showing his throat. In a theocracy that worships treachery, he made wizardry indispensable, turning the city's paranoia into a tool that answered to his hand. When he errs, caverns fall. As Archmage of Menzoberranzan and scion of House Baenre, Gromph served for centuries as the city's supreme arcanist, balancing deference to priestesses of Lolth with a relentless expansion of arcane infrastructure. His signature catastrophe, the Rage of Demons, began when he harnessed the Underdark's Faerûn in a grand ritual that tore rifts to the abyss and let demon lords walk the realms. He survived the consequences as he had survived coups, exiles, and shifting matrons, by knowing when to bow, when to vanish, and when to return with new leverage. His magic is ritual, ward webs, and long familiarity with the Underdark's strange radiations rather than flashy duelcraft. Sammaster. Sammaster spoke of the future the way some men speak of judgment. He saw crowns of bone in every sky and set about making the world agree. Where others founded schools, he founded a doom. Once a brilliant wizard favored by Mystra, Sammaster turned to fatalism after a spiral of betrayals and obsessions, misreading prophecy into a doctrine that undead dragons would rule the world. He founded the cult of the dragon, codified Dracolich creation into repeatable rites, and seeded cells across Faerûn that hunted relics, subverted worms, and prepared for the long night. In 1373 DR, the year of rogue dragons, his schemes reached a crescendo as draconic madness and mass Draco-liching threatened continent-wide catastrophe. Coalitions of heroes, harpers, and dragon allies broke the rituals and destroyed Sammaster's latest incarnation, though the cult endured and adapted as designed. Velsharoon. Velsharoon looks at death and sees a syllabus. Where other powers thunder about judgment, he whispers lab notes to mortals who want their research to outlast their pulse. In life, he was a brilliant, hungry wizard who treated limits as invitations, and the day he put on godhood, he did it the way he did everything else, step by calculated step. Velsharoon began as a mortal necromancer closely tied to Thay, a rival in style, if not in stature, to lich lords like Szass Tam. He pursued lichdom as a waypoint rather than a destination, and, in 1368 DR, completed a carefully engineered ascent to demigodhood through a process associated in canon with Talos. In the divine reshuffle that followed, he claimed the portfolio of necromancy, previously under Cyric's overcrowded mantle, positioning himself as patron to necromancers, liches, and scholars of undeath across Faerûn. His uneasy relations with the wider pantheon are practical rather than pious. Azuth and Maestra tolerate the value of controlled research, even as Kalimvor and Jurgle bristle at his encouragement of unlife. In culture, his church reads like a guild of experimenters, cataloging grimoires, refining lich rites, and treating corpses as data. He does not preach cruelty so much as continuity, knowledge carried forward when flesh would fail, and that pitch has filled hidden chapels from Thay to the Heartlands. Elminster Aumar. Elminster is the shrug you hear before a miracle lands. He walks in with pipe smoke and a story, and by the time the tale ends, the apocalypse has been convinced to try again tomorrow. People call him meddlesome until they need him, which is most of history. Elminster of Shadowdale is a chosen of Mystra, whose relationship with the goddess spans incarnations of the weave. Born a prince of Athalantar, he survived tyranny, trained first as a thief and priest, and finally as a wizard under Mystra's own tutelage, and became one of the Harper's most capable field operatives and advisors. He has stood at the pivot points. During the time of troubles, 1358 DR, he helped contain divine fallout. After the Spellplague, 1385 DR, stripped away silver fire and shattered old certainties, he endured, recovered, and resumed the unglamorous work of stabilizing weave nodes and stopping rituals that would rewrite the map. His long romance with the Simbul braided power with vulnerability. Their partnership produced victories and scars. He does not win through spectacle so much as through precision, closing disasters without collapsing neighborhoods, outthinking tyrants like Manshoon, and mentoring the next hands to hold the line. Alustriel Silverhand. Alustriel is the welcome light on a fortress wall. She smiles, and the room plans a future. In a land that admires lone heroes, she built a habit of standing together and made it look easy. Alustriel, one of Mystra's 7 sisters, ruled Silverymoon as High Lady, and in 1371, DR organized the League of the Silver Marches, Luruar, a confederation of cities and holds that pooled defenses and trade to keep the North livable. Under her influence, Silverymoon's mythal-backed wards, colleges, and alliances became the region's cultural spine. She cultivated relationships with dwarves of Mithril Hall, elves of Everesca, and human powers from Sundabar to Citadel Adbar, favoring diplomacy, early warning, and mutual aid over conquest. When dragons, orcs, or giants gathered, she made sure the banners met them as one. In later years, she stepped back from formal rule, but her network and reputation continued to steady councils that might otherwise have fractured. From Warlock's Crypt to Blackstaff Tower, from Shade's Fallen Sky to the infinite basement under Waterdeep. Each of these archmages left fingerprints you can see from orbit. Some build, some break. Many do both before breakfast. The weave remembers everything, and so do the fans. Lore check. Rumor versus canon. Rumor dies in a fire. If you enjoyed this dive into the arcane masters of the realms, we think you might like some of our others. Check out one of our videos on Mad Mage abominations, or one of our most recent videos. Until next time, adventurer, may your rolls be high and your loot legendary.